When the knock echoed at midnight, Ethan Caldwell expected danger, desperation, or a thief, but certainly not the trembling boy whose single sentence would shatter his beliefs and rebuild his entire life. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Ethan Caldwell had everything a man could desire: fortune built from decades of real estate success, a mansion on a hill overlooking the entire city, and an army of employees who treated him with the same blend of respect and fear. Yet in the quiet corners of his vast home, where the marble floors reflected the soft glow of untouched chandeliers, loneliness lived like a permanent shadow. He had money. He had power. But he had no one who truly needed him. At exactly 12:03 a.m., as the night settled into a deep, breathless silence, a sudden knock rattled the front door. Ethan stiffened. No one ever came to his house uninvited. No one ever dared. He reached for the security tablet on the table and tapped the screen. The camera feed flickered to life, revealing a small, frail boy no older than 9 or 10, shivering on the front steps. He wore torn shoes, a faded oversized jacket, and eyes filled with terror so real it almost reached through the screen. Ethan frowned. A child. At midnight. Another knock, this one weaker, almost pleading. Inside him, something old and buried tugged hard. Against every instinct formed from years of caution and mistrust, Ethan walked to the door and opened it. The boy looked up instantly. His lips trembled. His fists clenched at his chest as if protecting something invisible. "Please, sir," the boy whispered. I didn't know where else to go." Ethan cleared his throat. "Who are you? What are you doing here at this hour?" My name is Oliver Grant," the boy said, voice cracking. I need help. My mom, she collapsed, and they took her away. They wouldn't let me go with her. They said to wait until morning. But I'm scared. And I haven't eaten since yesterday." Ethan stood still. Something inside him twisted, an echo of a pain he had buried decades ago. His own childhood flashed in front of him, a small boy standing outside a locked house, waiting for a father who never cared enough to return. He swallowed hard. "Come inside," he said softly. Oliver hesitated. I don't want to bother you." "You're not a bother," Ethan replied. The word surprised even him. The moment the child stepped in, Ethan noticed how Oliver's knees wobbled from exhaustion. The boy tried to stand straight, as though afraid he'd appear disrespectful, but his hunger betrayed him. Ethan guided him gently to the dining hall. The room, usually silent and unused, seemed to awaken when the boy entered. Ethan prepared a plate himself, something he hadn't done in years, and set it in front of Oliver. The boy stared at the meal as if it were a dream. "Go on," Ethan said. Oliver ate like someone who didn't know when the next meal would come, yet he never forgot his manners. He paused every few bites, wiped his mouth, whispered "thank you," as though terrified of appearing greedy. Ethan watched him with an ache he couldn't name. After the boy finished, Ethan brought him a blanket and guided him to the living room sofa. "You can rest here tonight," he said. But before lying down, Oliver reached carefully into his pocket and placed a small folded paper on the table. Ethan looked at him questioningly. "It's the only thing I have left," Oliver murmured. "But I want to give it to you for helping me." Ethan unfolded it. It was a childish drawing, scribbled crayons forming a small house with smoke rising from a crooked chimney. Beside the house stood a woman and a boy, hand in hand, both smiling. "That's me and my mom," Oliver explained softly. "I drew it for her last week. She works all day and night. I told her that one day I'd buy her a real house. A safe one. Not the broken one we live in now." Ethan felt a sharp sting behind his eyes. A safe house. A dream he once had. A dream no one ever cared about. As Oliver lay on the sofa, exhaustion finally taking him, Ethan remained awake, studying the little drawing, hearing the faint echo of his own childhood promises. Had he become the kind of man who made homes for the world but never built one for himself? The next morning, Ethan took Oliver to the hospital. They found Oliver's mother, Grace Grant, in a small ward bed, pale but conscious. Her eyes widened when she saw Ethan entering with her son. You're Mr. Caldwell," she said weakly. "The man who owns half the city." "I'm just someone who answered his door," Ethan replied gently. Grace tried to sit up, but pain etched across her face. "I'm sorry my son troubled you," she said. "He must have been so scared." "He wasn't a trouble at all," Ethan murmured. Oliver ran to his mother and hugged her tightly. Ethan stepped back, watching a bond he had never experienced as a child. A mother's love. A child's devotion. Something warm and painful pulled inside him again. When the doctor came in, he explained that Grace had collapsed from exhaustion and severe anemia. She needed rest, improved nutrition, and time, things she could not afford. Ethan stared at her worn clothes, the tired lines on her face, and the desperation she tried to hide. He recognized it. He had lived it. "I want to help," Ethan said suddenly. Grace shook her head. "You've done enough. We don't want pity." "It's not pity," he replied. "It's the right thing." Grace hesitated, eyes softening. Ethan continued, "You've worked hard your entire life. I know what it's like to struggle alone. Let me help you, for Oliver's sake." Tears shimmered in Grace's eyes. That evening, Ethan personally arranged for Grace to be moved to a better ward. He hired a caretaker for her. He bought new clothes for Oliver. He ensured they had enough food delivered daily. But he didn't stop there. He drove Oliver to school, stayed with him until he stopped trembling around strangers, and visited Grace every evening. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. And somewhere along the way, Ethan stopped feeling like an outsider in their lives. One afternoon, as they all sat together at a park bench, Oliver drawing, Grace resting, Ethan quietly watching the two, Grace looked at him and spoke softly. "You've changed my son's life," she said. Ethan shook his head. "He changed mine." She smiled gently. "What did Oliver say that night? You mentioned his words never left you." Ethan inhaled deeply, replaying the moment at his doorway. "When I opened the door," he said quietly, "I asked him why he came to my house. He said, 'Because someone told me rich people don't care.' I wanted to see if that was true." Grace's eyes widened. Ethan's voice thickened. "I realized he wasn't looking for food. He wasn't looking for shelter. He was looking for proof that kindness still existed." A silence settled between them, soft, warm, meaningful. Oliver suddenly ran toward them, holding up a new drawing. This time, it showed 3 figures standing outside a house, a woman, a boy, and a man. "That's you," Oliver said proudly, pointing at the men in the picture. "Because now you're part of our family too, right?" Ethan froze. Grace looked at him with tears in her eyes. And for the first time in decades, Ethan felt something he had forgotten the shape of. Belonging. He lifted Oliver into his arms and nodded. "Yes," he whispered. "I'm part of your family." That night, Ethan went home, not to a cold mansion, but to a life that finally felt warm. One midnight knock. One frightened boy. One decision to open the door. It changed everything.